Yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our invocation will be provided by Melissa France, the Director of Youth and Family Ministries from Daytona Beach Drive-In Christian Church. Welcome.
Thank you. Will you pray with me? God of all creation, we thank you for this day and the many blessings that we have received. We thank you for the ability to use our minds to discern your will and to work to create a strong and healthy community. We thank you for our community and all who serve it, for those who teach and those who protect, those who clean and those who repair, those who work in parks and those who work on roads, those who plan and those who make the plans happen, for those who heal and those who counsel, for those who govern and those who elect. We thank you for our community. We pray for all in our community who are hungry, unemployed, or uninsured. We pray for all in our community who are mentally or physically ill, and all who live in violence. For these and all the burdens of our larger community, Lord, hear our prayers. As this meeting begins this evening, I pray for each person here. Give each one clarity of mind, creativity, compassion, due diligence, and integrity. Give them listening ears and thoughtful words. Give them presence of mind and an open heart. And all God's people said, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Here.
Councilman Bastian.
Here.
Councilman Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Appointments to council committees for 2018. Currently, Vice Mayor Ford is connected to Art House. Councilman Stiltner is connected to the City Investment Committee. General Employee Retirement Trust, Councilman Stiltner. Library Advisory Board, which is not a very busy one, to Councilman Tremont. He got a break there, I think. River to Sea Transportation, Councilman Bastian. Municipal Firefighters Pension Board, Vice Mayor Ford. Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust, Councilman Bastian. Chamber of Commerce, myself and even months, Vice Mayor Ford and odd months. Volusia League of Cities is me. Roundtable of Elected Officials is me. Youth Advisory Board, Councilman Tremont, and Golf Advisory Board, Councilman Stiltner. Anybody want to do any horse trading or swapping out or any suggestions?
I'm willing to keep mine. You know, if we need to make a change, we can. But I know in some of the others that are working, it's hard. The River to Sea TPO meets at 9 in the morning, and they meet monthly, so that's a little bit more difficult for somebody with not as flexible as schedule.
I'm good to stay put.
Actually, Bob, if you're up to it, the Chamber of Commerce,
Okay.
I'm good with just meeting with them quarterly.
Okay.
3, 6, 9, 12, and if you can take the rest of them.
Sure.
Anything else? With those changes, can I have a motion for approval?
Can I, the library, I think I put in a city manager's update that the library board's looking to collapse into the Friends of Volusia County Libraries. Whether that comes to fruition in March or not, it's out there. And did you mention First Step? Was that? It's not a board.
No, I did not. This is what we had at the beginning of the year, and since then we.
Right. So just keep that in mind that if the
that should
library
be
goes
added
away,
to the list.
But Councilman Tremont was selected to be on that board, so
one off, one on. Passion for that. Yeah, and quite frankly, I think as the library board, we've talked about that enough times. We've tried to save it and give them.
Yeah.
We can't create work that's not there.
Right.
So when that comes to pass.
Okay.
May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve as discussed, and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Consent agenda. Public comments on consent agenda items only. Being none, Item 6, agenda approval. I would like 17 taken off of consent
Okay,
for
17.
YMCA.
And I move to approve the remaining consent agenda items 5 through 16 and 18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Which brings us all the way to item 17, approval of 10-year YMCA lease agreement and sublease with Brooks Halifax Health. Teresa snuck in just in time.
I did. I asked Jay to put us on early. He put us on.
You're up.
6:35, my friend, 6:35.
And that's because we took our time.
Well, thank you. I'm Teresa Rand, the President and CEO of the Volusia Flagler Family YMCA. Actually, Bob Ludlow was supposed to speak on our behalf, so he's probably going to scoot in right at the end. He said he had a church appointment, so he'd be here at 6:45. So I'll go ahead and start by saying that we have our board, our corporate board has voted to approve the lease that you have before you tonight. But I did speak with Jake, our city manager, and ask him if we could come forward and say we're signing the lease, we value this partnership, but there are some things in the lease that still give us concern. And the largest one being is the removal of the R&R fund that was dedicated and put into that lease many years ago to make sure that all the monies that were paid in rent went back into the facility. And that fund is gone from the lease that you have in front of you tonight. And that concerns us, that that money is going into the general fund because the building is getting older. Obviously, we've gone from a 16% rent increase, which originally was given to us by staff, down to a 4%. So we agreed to that and feel like that's reasonable. We have not had a rent increase in quite a few years. So we're thankful for that. We understand costs change. We're going to do our best not to pass that on to our Port Orange Y members. Right now, all of our YMCA facilities pay the same membership rate, but this is the only facility that we lease back. So we're doing our 2018 budget, which I hope our board will approve next week, with rates staying the same as they currently are for Port Orange Y members, and we're going to do our best to keep that as much as we can. We have had to go up on some of our leases, our subleases and our facility agreements. Steve Lottie is one of those with Daytona Beach Speed. But again, you know, I don't know, my personal bills don't stay the same. Yeah, my electricity, everything goes up.
Mine sure don't.
So I get that. I get that. It really is that R&R fund. And then the other piece that gave us some concern is that the Y, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to, because Bob was going to speak to this. Let me, my note. Is the one piece in the document where in the document the Y programs, it states that the Y programs must be compatible with city offerings. And we asked for, in our last conversation with the city, to put a statement that the city programs also should be compatible with the Y so that we're not duplicating services. And when we sent our last round of requests back, the R&R fund again being the main one, we basically were told, this is it, sign it, or you have until June to vacate the building, was the email that we got. So that took us back a little bit. We feel like, and I know I've only been here 9 years, only 9 years, but the lease has been around for 1989, so long time, that it just feels like it's not a partnership anymore. That it feels more like it's a business arrangement, and I realize we're a little bit of both, but this year just felt really differently in the negotiations. Again, as I said before, Al and Shannon, everybody was professional. We had friendly agreements to disagree sometimes on some of the points, so it's not, you know, I'm not making a comment on staff. They're doing what they do. I have to do what I need to do for the Y, so it's nothing about that, but I really just felt like we needed to state the things that still give us a little bit of angst.
And that's fine. And quite frankly, I think that's probably a sign that we probably have a good agreement when not everybody's happy on one side or the other. There's probably some give and take.
Absolutely.
And I hope that our past history shows that we'll be a good landlord to the building no matter where we put that
Right.
R&R fund. But from a city that had a lot of financial flexibility 2 years ago,
Right.
and's gone through a couple of hurricanes and is still waiting on FEMA.
Yep, so are we.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to have
Right.
the financial flexibility to move funds and then move them back later. You can earmark something, but if you put it in a fund, it's,
Right.
yeah, it's like, I need to clean up my city, but I can't touch that pot of money. So,
Right.
I don't know, I just, personally, I feel like maybe the fact that neither side got everything they wanted and we're
Right.
content and maybe not extremely happy is probably a sign
Right.
that it's a good agreement.
Yeah.
And we'll still be a good landlord.
Absolutely. Well, and that works both ways. We've been a good tenant over the years. We give a lot
Absolutely.
back to the city, almost $200,000 a year in scholarships to our residents, and taking good care of the facility. And we just want to maintain a good working relationship with the city, but we also don't want our hands tied. There's only so much we can do if the building's not maintained and taken care of, and it is getting older. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say that concerns me. And so really, that's all we're ready to sign.
Let me
anything.
make a comment.
Yes, sir.
It was my understanding, first of all, I don't consider it a business relationship.
Thank you.
We feel partners with you, and I think that's a strong feeling here on the council. We want to make no money off the lease. Lease monies are going to be, as I understand it, am I correct, Jake? In the long term, they will be put back into the building, and I think
For the foreseeable future, we're putting over 100%,
all
back
the
in.
monies
Over
back into the
100%.
over
building.
100%. I think we're $15,000 or $20,000 more this year
Yeah,
and more
then-
next year
So
out of the general fund.
it is our anticipation and again, when I told you, like the whole council agreed, we want to make no money off this
Right.
lease. All the money from this lease will ultimately go back in the building. Now, some of it we're going to have to save for 2 to 3 years, for example, for the forthcoming new roof.
Bigger
Absolutely.
expenditures.
Or the bigger
Absolutely.
expenditures. But if that's what I am voting for, and I've been told that the current lease payments would not cover it enough, and we've been losing money. All we want to do is lose no money.
Right.
And, I can assure you, if there's any money made, it will be put
Right.
back in the Y.
Right.
We appreciate the Y, we believe in it, and I consider it a partnership. And certainly, if you're having any problems or concerns, please come to council.
Thank you.
You have friends
Absolutely.
and supporters up here. We value our Y. I was here when it started. I was involved in the beginning, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I do agree with you that we should have an agreement that reads our programs and your programs are both compatible.
Right.
Uh,
Well, the
we-
current
we-
agreement doesn't say that,
Well-
but past history, as the mayor says,
Yeah.
proves that we've been able to work through all of those things. So
Yeah.
I foresee
Yeah.
that we'll be
And
able
we'll
to do that
continue
in
to.
the future.
Yeah, we'll work.
Yeah.
We'll continue to.
Yes.
And we appreciate, and I tell you what, I don't care what the other cities say about their Ys. The one we have in Port Orange is your best Y.
It's the flagship. It is our flagship.
And we're very proud of that.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything to add or questions?
Well, I just come in on the timeline of the contract. I appreciate your comments. I do think that it was a good thing to get this done before the end of the year.
I agree.
I know you guys are working on your
We all have
budget,
budgets.
going into a new year. I don't know what Bob Ludlow would have to say, but apparently we're going to hear.
I asked Jake to
Just
go
kidding.
early, and he
But
was.
He's here to talk us out of it.
One of the things that we've seen sometimes in the past is that if you don't set a marker and say, get it done by this marker, it just goes on and on and on and on. And then it creates additional complexities that none of us want to be dealing with April, May, and June of next year. So I am glad that you guys were on both sides able to get this thing worked out and ironed out and so that we can move
Well, one
forward
thing
into
Alan
a
and
new
Shannon and
year.
I never disagreed on was being done by the time this meeting came.
Well done.
We didn't. Neither of us wanted to face you guys saying we weren't where we are
Well
today.
We agree with that.
So,
Any other?
yeah,
Sorry, I was at a church.
Bob, you've done
I
a great
told him
job.
you were
Hey,
at church.
Terrific job, Bob. Good
We're
work.
good? All right.
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
First meeting I've ever been to.
Matt?
Yes, Mayor Burnett, if we could have two separate motions. One is just to approve the lease as presented with Volusia Flagler YMCA for 10 years. And then the second motion that I'd be asking for is your authorization of the city manager to review and approve the sublease. We haven't received the final form yet. We actually just got the revised sublease today. So if you could delegate that to the city manager, we can get that done before year end.
I'll entertain the first motion.
How many subleases are there total?
I believe there's one sublease, and then they have certain use agreements with other folks that use
But
facilities.
those aren't
there.
leases?
I believe they aren't.
Just one.
Got
It's
it.
just a, yeah. the
Gotcha.
Halifax, so.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for the first, the approval of the lease.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by the Vice Mayor, a second by Councilman Bastian. I don't know, you're slipping over there.
We'll have a
Coach.
double first motion.
have it.
Anybody else like to speak to this? If not, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. May I have a motion to delegate the authority on the sublease to the
So
city
moved.
manager?
He beat me.
Yeah, that was pretty
Wow.
good, Chase. May I have a
Second.
We have a second. You guys are all over this. This is going to be a quick meeting at this rate. Anybody else like to speak to this? Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, you ain't going anywhere. You're stuck with us.
Well, good. We're glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Which brings us to citizen participation non-agended. I didn't have any, Ron? Okay. Council comments. Start with you, Chase.
I don't really have anything today, other than I've been in communication with the Daytona Beach Commission and Mayor Henry and Pastor Durham. They'll officially approve me in to First Step Board Thursday, at Thursday's meeting, I believe.
Very good.
Or is it Wednesday? Whenever their next meeting is this week.
Good.
And in addition to that, it's our last one of the year, correct? Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bob?
Yeah. By the way, I want to wish our residents as well a happy Hanukkah today.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I want to tell you,
You just made Alan Rosen
Yeah.
come out of his chair.
What?
you know, we all are one people. So, anyway, what I was going to talk a little, just briefly, I was driving down Ridgewood today and just came up a little overwhelmed as I looked around. I said, you know, it's beginning to change, and it's looking better. Now, it's going to even look better when they finish with the plantings, but God bless them. But we are making progress, and to see Riverwalk, had a good meeting today with the city manager on Riverwalk. I want to assure, and I think the council agrees with me, we need to keep the pressure on. Let's finish it. As we negotiate with developers, let's keep the city's hand strong and moving forward. So I'm hoping that this coming year is going to be a good year for Ridgewood. We're posed right now in the development cycle for good things to happen there. So I'm looking forward to a productive year on Ridgewood and on the east side of the city.
Okay. Drew?
No, I don't have it. We got a long agenda tonight after this, so I'm going to stay quiet.
I'm going to hold you to that for the rest of the evening. Scott?
I'll reserve all my comments for further items down the agenda then. No, I'm good.
You worded that a little bit differently
Yeah,
than he did.
That's right.
And then I'm going to do the same. Which brings us to item 20, Fire Pension Board appointments. We've got two.
Oh, there's Jim.
May I have a nomination to reappoint Jim Reardon?
So move.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Tell
By
us
the way,
what.
he's been a stellar member.
Tell us why you want the job, to keep the job, or tell us why you want to talk us out of it.
I'd like to keep the job. I think we've done a great job. The pension fund has done a lot better in the last five years or so. We've made some changes. We've also had a lot of changes to the to the board, we've lost our administrators. We've got a brand new administrator. Our next meeting, we're going to have a new attorney. So I'm actually the longest standing board member, and I think it's going to be important to keep some of that knowledge.
I agree. Not only that, but I'm very reassured to have someone of your background on that board. That means an awful lot to me.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Reardon?
I just want to say thanks for your willingness to not only be on the board and the service you've already provided, but to continue to move forward with that. It's very refreshing to have someone with your experience and knowledge to be in a position that's so important on a board like that. So we really do appreciate that, Jim.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
We should double his pay. Yeah.
I can do that.
This,
But Jim, I would agree. I appreciate you staying on. You're valuable to that board, and I know the attorney switched concerns some people, but you're in very capable hands with the new attorney, so the board's in good hands.
Sounds good.
Jim's been really, it's really interesting to watch as he sits up here and the financial people are asking him questions and the like, and he's making observations. It gives you a good feeling because, with him sitting voting alongside of me on issues of finance that I'm a little light on, I feel good to have him there.
yeah, this is why he has the day job he has. He
Yes.
knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
Chase?
As a coach, when things are going good, you don't change the lineup up. So
There you go.
keep going.
Thank you.
Jim, I appreciate it. This is not an easy board to serve on.
No.
And you've been there for quite a while. I appreciate it. We have a nomination. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed?
Good
Good.
to go.
Better not be.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
You got time to go home for a run?
Yeah.
All right. See you, Jim. Take care.
Is Chris Taylor here?
He is not here.
Chris Taylor is looking to get reappointed. May I have a nomination?
So moved.
I'll second it. I'll give it to Chase. Go ahead, Chase. You got it.
Giving it to Chase. He got it, man. He snuck in
He
on
took
you.
it.
We have a nomination. We have a second. Any comments? Chris Taylor is currently serving as the 5th member. He's not a
Yes.
newbie.
Yeah.
Anybody like to speak to him?
No, he's done well. He's one of the newer board members, but he's not brand new. So he's done well on that board. I mean, Bob could speak to it more probably, but
You have a comfort
oh
zone?
yeah,
I have a
for
comfort
sure.
with him.
Yeah.
He's very
For sure.
reasonable. We have a very responsible fire pension board. They're really working to solve the many problems that came from the past.
Anybody else like to speak to this? Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, we have a full board again. Brings us to item 21. Second reading of ordinance number 2017-31, Land Development Code Amendments, Chapter 14 and 20, Ridgewood Quarter Improvements, case number 17-250000003. And there it is. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Land Development Code, amending Chapter 14, Section 3, to modify the Florida vernacular architectural theme in Port Orange Town Center Community Redevelopment Area, amending Chapter 20, Section 2 to revise existing development incentives, add additional development incentives, and providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2017-31.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Second reading, comments, gentlemen, any?
Nothing.
I do have a question. I just want to revisit something with Mr. Jones. Two things. Correct me, and I believe I've asked this before, but it was probably about a year ago. As we're going forward with Ridgewood redevelopment, if we can't put a moratorium in that area only. Correct? If we decided on a moratorium for something like that, I don't want to see any more thrift stores or used car dealerships over there. But I can't say I want a moratorium in that area only. I'd have to be for the entire city. Correct?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you can have moratoriums that are specific for areas, but that would be more of a. So moratoriums used when you're trying to develop some regulations or you're modifying regulations. It's kind of calling time out to put some regulations in place. If you'd like us to kind of try to consider acceptable uses and that sort of thing, then I think that's something we can start talking about with staff community development now, if that's something that the council would like to explore in the Ridgewood corridor. But right now, it's you know, it's kind of wide open.
In the what corridor? You mean the River District?
River District, I apologize. We're going to update our
We
zoning
haven't
map.
really defined the geographic boundaries of that river district yet, so.
Read the proclamation.
We're gonna update the zoning map.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's, you know, if that's something that we consider going forward and looking at what can and can't go down there. I'm always careful about, want to be careful about making, you know, more regulation at the same time, you know, watching what.
And you're right about that balancing act, because you say you can't have these businesses and then you end up with empty buildings and you got to decide which is worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
Here's the
want
thing, that the consumer and the residents, they're going to decide whether a business stays or not.
Yep.
Yep.
If they frequent the business and they support the business financially, obviously, then they'll do well and they'll flourish and they'll stay there. If there's not a market for whatever it is they're doing, they will not be there long, because the value of the River District is going to go up.
Yeah.
Not going to go down. So.
Yeah. And that's where I want to get. You know, I want
Sure.
to make sure I don't want to get away from that. At the same time, I want to, you know, what we've been doing down there obviously doesn't work. So I'm just looking for different thoughts.
We've taken the pulse. I think as the market changes down there, we might see some things that we're going to be doing later. My suggestion would be that maybe later on in the spring we talk about different strategies for there in a workshop, and that could be one of them we employ or not.
One other thing to add, you know, these incentives are not geared towards some of the uses that you indicated. So these are, you know, targeted businesses that, you know, those wouldn't qualify for these types of incentives.
I wouldn't think they would.
The good news is, rather than restricting uses you don't like, you're incentivizing uses you do like. So I think that's kind of the approach that is being proposed here, and then we can consider some of the other options as well.
I wasn't thinking in terms of incentives. The other question was we looked at this a while back, and give me a refresher on the grandfathered codes, you know, from when we annexed that area in, how we update it, or do we ever? It's correct me. It's only when they're going to add something to there, then that has to be up to code if something new goes in.
So it's, yeah, anytime you have new development, so anything that's, you know, grandfathered in, we call it an existing non-conforming use. So anytime that we have a redevelopment, then you're going to have to bring it up to the current code. Part of the revisions that we're talking about in this ordinance will be to relax some of that standard for development in this area. I think Penny can address that.
Penelope Cruz, planner. The first item that you were talking about, you know, we have looked at that in the past. It's been brought up by our planning commission. The tricky thing with moratoriums is that usually you have to have some kind of a rationale or reasoning for why you're doing that, some kind of negative impacts that have been studied and proven. Thrift stores are considered retail. We don't want a moratorium on retail in Ridgewood. So
Right.
yeah, it's a tricky line that you play with that. But hopefully if we continue to go down this positive line that Councilman Ford was talking about, and we continue to, you know, see some of these other businesses, then we'll hopefully over time change that dynamic out there. Grandfathering, there's really no more grandfathering so-called out, you know, per se out there. What was in the code allowed for, there was this valuation over 20 years, and pretty much that time frame and those values have surpassed those limits that were in the code. So at this point, if anything becomes vacant for 6 months or more, or there's a change of use, then it has to be brought up to code. What are in these land development code amendments does provide some flexibility on that for targeted businesses, with the intent that we'd like to get these targeted businesses in. And a lot of them tend to be mom and pops. And so we've heard from the business community that it's really hard to put all those upfront costs in to try to get your business established. And so other cities are letting them do that. And so they're getting all these like new cool mom and pop businesses in some other cities because they're not making them put all those upfront costs in. And then eventually what we've seen, you know, in some businesses is once they get established and they're doing good, they want to make those upgrades on their own. You know, say if they start out with a site that's got gravel parking, a couple years down the line, they might, you know, come in. We've had this in the past where they'll come in and they say, we'd like to do a site plan modification to pave our parking lot on their own. You know, they couldn't afford it going in, but they might want to do it down the line. So, but we wouldn't, you know, we're not proposing that relaxation of those regulations for any business, just those businesses that the council has agreed are targeted businesses for Ridgewood.
Okay.
But anything other than that,
capital-intensive
they have
requirements
to
that we
bring it
have.
up to code once that business goes out of business and it's vacant for 6 months, or it's any kind of change of use.
And let's face it too, not every thrift store is created the same.
Oh, yeah, and I'm a thrift store nut.
If you go to the Halifax Hospice thrift store, or I'm trying to remember the name of the one on the west side out in behind Wawa, those are very well done, well kept,
Yeah.
as opposed to the thrift store that opens up on Ridgewood Avenue and throws the merchandise out on the sidewalk, and code enforcement has to do their job.
And that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
want to see.
Any other comments? Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to item 22. Second reading of ordinance 2017-32, the police pension amendment for the sheriff plan. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 54, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Port Orange, Florida, entitled Police Pension Fund, amending Section 54-137, Funding, creating a new Section 54-140, Share Plan, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2017-32.
Second.
There was a race before to get that second in, and then all of a sudden that long pause. Matt, did you have something to add on this?
Yes, Mayor Burnett. We sent out the actuarial statements, which have to be included with this on second reading. So if you don't have a copy of them, I have copies here. Basically, the report indicates that there is no impact with this proposed change at this time.
Any other questions, comments? Anybody else like to speak to this? There being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to item 23, first reading of ordinance number 2017-33, the 2017 Comprehensive Plan Capital Improvements Element, annual update. Okay, flip pages here. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Comprehensive Plan Capital Improvement Element, providing for the fiscal year 2018 to 2023 5-year schedule of capital improvements and supporting data, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances and resolutions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2017-33.
Second.
What he said.
I'm like, okay, we got it. Yeah, I'm like, wow, dynamic changed very quickly.
Penelope Cruz Planner. So you all are probably very familiar with this. We do it every year. Florida law requires that all local governments basically take the capital improvements program that the council already approved and was put into the operating budget and basically copy and paste that into the comprehensive plan only for the projects that are related to concurrency. So there's nothing new in this document that you haven't already approved. It's just taking it from one document into another.
Budget meets plan.
Yeah. But I'm here to answer any questions.
Council, questions? And restated master development agreement for the Port Orange Gateway Center planned commercial development and the conceptual development plan, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance 2017-34.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're up.
Penelope Cruz Planner. So this is the 8th amendment to the Port Orange Gateway Center PCD. This is to create one new out parcel out of Lot 3. So it'll be called Lot 3A, really similar to what happened with Lowe's and the Lot 6A out there where Starbucks and Chipotle are. So real similar situation there. The proposed new lot, Lot 3A, is basically located where Target's overflow parking lot currently is. And if this is approved, then Lot 3A is currently under review to be developed as a approximately 10,000 square foot commercial multi-tenant building. There is still plenty parking left for both the Target store as well as the proposed new lot. And it will have the same access ways that are already there, and all the existing access easements are already in place as well. There are 2 policy issues with the MDA amendment, and it's, you know, basically off-site signage, and that basically occurs because of the configuration of the lot. If you can see how it kind of makes this this backwards L kind of shape here, the existing Target sign would now be on this new lot, and so therefore is considered off-site signage. They're not looking to replace that sign, but the policy issue exists by fact of creating the lot. The second policy issue is with regards to wall sign. They're requesting to have a 25% of the building height for their wall signage rather than the 2-foot maximum height. This is very consistent with shopping centers throughout the city, as well as this particular shopping center. This is the provision for the rest of the development in the Gateway PCD, as well as the majority of the PCDs in Port Orange, and is pretty consistent citywide for what retailers are looking for.
Which is consistent, the 2-foot or the 25%?
The 25% that they're asking for. That's what the Target, that's what the Gateway PCD has for the rest of the development that's already there, as well as the majority of the other PCDs.
This would be
throughout the city.
consistent
Yes.
with everything else in that. Okay. in that
But they have
plaza.
to create new regulations for this new lot, so they're just
Because
adding
of
the same
change.
regulations.
Let's start with that one first, since that should be the easiest. Any objections?
I have none.
Any questions about it or objections?
Yeah, here's my concern. One of the complaints I have constantly is traffic on Dunlawton, particularly in that area. Are we being wise in allowing further development, more attractions, to bring even more vehicles into the area? I'm getting a sense from a lot of people in the community and of concern. Are we overdeveloping? Are we heading? And by the way, I just drove this weekend to visit my son in Orlando, and I came back and had to have a quick scotch to calm the jitters of driving in that mess. So that's the question I have, and it's a broader question. I hate to raise it for this particular one, but how many more buildings can we jam into that area? You know, and that's.
I think we have 3 questions. One, the wall sign height. The second, the off-site signage.
Yeah.
And then the larger question itself of whether to approve it or not.
And my second concern was, and again, it reflects back to what the mayor just said as well, the signs. We had such a beautiful Dunlawton corridor. Are we proceeding to, and this area was a deviation from what it is further east. We don't have quite as nice a buffer, but are we going to sign it to death? I don't want to look like some of the communities that just look awful with signs. One of the things, we're a little better than that. You know, we really want to look good. So that's the other concern I have with the signs. The sign obviously is going to point out on Dunlawton. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll. What they're showing is basically a similar, design to what's there for the parcel where Starbucks and
Chick-fil-A.
not Chick-fil-A.
Chipotle.
Chipotle, the other C, is basically a similar design to that. They weren't necessarily asking for more signage, one per lot. It's just that the location of this one for Target, because of the way they're carving out this lot, is located now on this lot, proposed lot 3A.
How many signs are on the one with Chipotle and Starbucks?
I think it's 6 panels,
Yeah.
which is similar to what they're proposing
So
here.
this one would be, I guess, looking at this, about
6 or 4.
4
The
businesses
exhibit.
on this?
Oh, the exhibit was there. There's an exhibit that shows you what they were proposing, I believe, in your packet. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. I'm sorry. So, pretty much the same design, consistent look. Still just the one per.
One sign, one
one per
monument with all
lot.
those signs instead of 5 separate monuments.
Yeah, and this one is just like I said. It's the same existing sign. It's just because of the way they're carving out the lot. With regards to the traffic, Dunlawton is basically the majority of the segments are pretty much based on the current traffic counts that we have are in the 70% of the capacity. So there is capacity on the roadway. I know how it feels at sometimes. I drive all the way from Beachside out to way out in Taylor every day, 2-3 times a day, and it just kind of depends on a lot of it to me seems like the timing of the lights. There's days where I can fly by and it feels great.
I've been hearing that number for the last 3 or 4 years. Oh, we're only at 70%.
It's gone. No, I mean it's like there's a few segments that are about 79% or so, but I mean those are the numbers. They do the traffic counts. We get them from the state.
Remember, this isn't 70% of your satisfaction. It's 70% of the scientific maximum load that city can take. There's some people that are already upset about what's happening south of Airport on Williamson already, and there's like 5 cars a day there, so it's tolerance.
And without parcels,
that we're having problems with already.
Without parcels, I mean the review of the site plan is not complete. We are not done reviewing the transportation impact analysis, but generally without parcels like this, the majority of the trips are internal captures, what they call. It's people that are already driving up and down Dunlawton, and they're not making necessarily many special trips just to go to this new use.
Remember, when you say 70 to 79%, that is not what the residents are saying. I'm just saying
It's perception.
Yeah,
to both community development and to everyone else. We are beginning to overbuild in that area. And the public is noting it, our residents, and they deserve better from us. All I'm saying is, let's all of us be aware that we need to step back and look a little about how fast we're growing and how many things we're going to jam into limited areas, because I'm getting a lot of feedback.
There's things we can control and there's things we can't.
Yeah,
And the things we can, we've got to do it with good measure.
And we are.
Is there anything else? I'm looking, I'm seeing this particular area, and certainly right next to Target, it just seems like wasted land. I never see a car out there.
Yeah.
It seems ideal to try to capitalize and get more business in there. Is there any, is this the last spot that's
Pretty
available?
much. There may be a little bit of room. At one point, they were looking at, it's not before us right now. We don't even have anything in our office that we're reviewing. At one point, Target was considering closing down their garden center and putting a tenant space out there. Again, they looked at that, and there was still, they have a lot of over parking. They overbuilt their parking lot, so there was still room for that. Again, that's usually internal capture as far as trips. Other than that, if they ever end up doing that, that got taken off the drawing board, but if they ever did come back, that'd probably be the last piece of this PCD that's left to carve out. After that, there's really, the rest of it they need for their parking to meet their requirements.
Another thing to consider, it's coming up later on this agenda, if approved, is Yorktown may mitigate some of that Dunlawton traffic going into this.
We also have several transportation improvements at intersections that are in the pipeline as far as like getting funding for TBA for turn lanes, things in there that can help at those intersections where things kind of get clogged up.
I'm just saying that we're going to be facing a public outcry. I think we need to get ahead of it.
This is right at a choke point. Yeah.
We really need to get ahead of it, and I do strongly support the measures that I know are going through your office, and TPO is involved in improving the traffic flow on Dunlawton. But we really need to listen to the public. They're beginning to get concerned. Thank you.
Chase, what else you got?
Nothing. I just, I share Bob's concern, and frankly, the concern of all the residents. I think the only thing that I feel a little better about is knowing that there isn't anything else after this. It is a wasted spot in terms of it's just sitting there. The owner wants to utilize it, and it's going to add some more jobs. There's certainly a lot of perks to it, and the fact that the internal traffic is a big help. You know, we're not putting an Olive Garden where people are specifically driving on Dunlawton to go there. So there's a lot of mitigating factors to put me in that favor.
Drew?
No, I don't have anything. I mean, we've talked about this before, and Target did, they closed they're not doing outside garden thing anymore, but it's not, I guess they've taken the option of leasing it out or whatever
The
off
tenant that
table.
they were looking at
Yeah.
kind of fell through
Okay.
because
They
nationwide.
use it mostly for storage.
Yeah, so,
There's a lot of room there for a bowling alley too.
no, there's not. You need 40 lanes, brother. You need at least
No,
40
not that
lanes. That's a
big.
big ball. You need more space than that. No, I don't have any further concerns with this.
Scott?
Bowling alley resurfaced.
Yeah.
I share the concerns that Bob spoke of. If there's a single area in our entire city where that perception is very well spoken of by our residents, it's right there. You know what I mean? It's within that quarter-mile stretch there. You know, when you look at the space and you look at out parcels and you start talking about square footage, that's one side of the equation. But the other side is what actually ends up being there. In case in point, you look at that Chick-fil-A, and when it was built, you said, well, it's got plenty of parking. Well, go by there at noon any day, and it's wrapped around the building, and every parking space is full, and people are parking over at Target and Lowe's to walk over. So
good
Because school's in session.
well, but that's the point. Is so when you plan these things and you look at these and you do your best with what you got to work with, and community development certainly does a great job.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is until you know what the popularity of what's going to be there, you really don't know what you've created. And
Shannon would just
that's
tell you he
concern.
runs a good business.
That's right. But it's a concern because depending on what does end up there, it could attract people to come in. Penelope brings up a great point. A lot of these things, people are on Dunlawton, oh, by the way, there's Chick-fil-A, they'll be pulling to grab whatever. But that could not be the point. The case here, you could get something that is a big draw in the region that draws a lot of traffic into the area. So just for point of discussion, but
Anthony's coal-fired pizza.
Or you get a Dunkin' Donuts, which really creates no new traffic,
right.
but everybody gets their coffee and they're happy.
That line's around the building too on
Yeah.
Dunlawton.
We'll see. Well, then they get the cars off of Dunlawton and into the parking lot.
Yeah, they're in the drive-through.
Any other questions, comments? Anybody else like to speak to this? Not, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Ford.
No.
Mayor Burnett.
No. 2-3. Item 25, replat of a portion of tracks F and H of Westport. Recommended motion is to approve the replat of a portion of tracks F and H of Westport Reserve Subdivision, Westport Reserve Phase 3 Subdivision Plans 2, and the concurrency fair share agreement.
Tim Berman, Community Development.
Hold on, let me get a motion on the floor.
Motion approved.
So moved, or second.
There you go. There's a motion, there's a second. Take it away.
Tim Berman, Community Development. What we got here is a subdivision plat. This is for property that's located on the south side of Town West Boulevard, between Crossy Boulevard and Tomoka Farms Road. It's the last development piece on that area for residential single family. It's about 44 acres in size. Proposal is for 115 single family homes on that one. It has been designed according with the zoning for the property in terms of dimensional requirements and house, for the lots. The property did do a traffic study. Did indicate some minor traffic impacts on the Williamson Boulevard. Basically, to mitigate those improvements, they entered into a fair share agreement, which they'll be paying into the city's Yorktown Boulevard project and also the city's Summer Trees road extension project. So there are basically two items there: as a subdivision plat and plans that, as I said, basically been designed according to the requirements in the Land Development Code. And the other aspect is the fair share currency agreement, which goes with that subdivision plat. Staff is recommending approval of both items, and the applicant's here to further discuss their proposal.
Council comments or questions for Mr. Berman?
Tim, more of a broad question, and you don't have to answer tonight, but if you would come back and brief council on this. Development's obviously increasing out there. That area is a hot commodity, I get that. The roadway, Town West Boulevard, is just getting pounded. It seems like every time I drive out there, the quality of that road is worse and worse and worse. And I think it is attributed to the large amount of trucks out there. Yeah. Can you just make a note to come back and brief us at some point and let us know what's the timeline? I know we look at a lot of our roads and we have timelines as to when we are going to get out there and repave them or whatever, but just take a look at that road. It really is getting bad. It seems quick too, especially when you get more towards the west end of that road, almost out to Tomoka Farms, like that last quarter, half mile. It's just hole after hole after hole after hole. Right. And I know a lot of heavy trucks using the roads, and I know this was a kind of a cut through to go to the landfill for the last 2 years with the big trucks and the storms and all that kind of stuff. But just take a look, because I do want the residents that are investing in Port Orange and their communities out there to have a quality road going into those areas as well. But there's a lot of impact out there on that.
Look at that then.
Will this trigger the road extension from through into Forest Lake Preserve?
The subdivision would not then?
Okay, so that's not, I know at some point that's probably going to go, but this isn't going to be the triggering point to cut it through?
In this case, no.
Okay, very good.
It's a funding source.
This is the replat. Was there an original that had a different lot count?
Initially, basically, they came, I think, about a year ago, and they platted the whole side of that property to the south there from Karasi to Tomoka Farms, and they labeled this as a tract H for future homes then, and basically just coming back and replatting that then. So there was no formal plat on it. Basically, it's the 115 there is kind of what they initially proposed, and like we kind of break down in that chart there in the staff report, we looked at that whole entire area, the neighborhood district, and in terms of the development that has occurred over there the past 10 years, it's actually about 48% of what was initially kind of anticipated then. So we are, below what was initially proposed in that area, and they're keeping within that, under 4 units per acre for that whole entire area then.
A detailed question. Can I ask about these the driveways of the homes you're putting in? Are they 1 car? Are they 2 car, 4 car driveways on the plans? The reason I ask is because that's a major contention with quite a few of our neighborhoods, where parking in these neighborhoods is really bothersome to a lot of.
Yeah, the driveways are positioned basically to be able to hold 2 cars in the garage and then 2 cars out in front of the garage area. So a total of 4 parking spaces plus on-street parking there. So typically with the subdivision plats, we don't get the driveway plans. I address those through the building permit process. Okay. And that's where make sure certain size bedrooms, more parking than necessary. But in the past, the homes here, which the developer can speak on, that are constructed in the other phases, have had driveway widths that are able to handle these 2 cars parked in there, plus what's in the garage.
Tim,
yeah.
Go
ahead. No, go ahead.
I think you kind of answered my question when you said there'll be on-street parking. So these are going to be city roads, not HOA.
Correct. These will be public. Public streets then.
Okay.
Again, my concern follows, and I think we've all heard it, in certain neighborhoods, the parking is getting to be an endless problem. But these, you're pretty sure are going to have double driveways.
Yeah. And the developer can speak more onto that, but basically what's been out there developed currently in the other 2 phases, which we understand is going to be continuation there.
Because the places with single driveways just don't work.
Right.
And the lots are the 50 by like 110, 50 by 100, something like that?
Yeah, 50 by 110, I mean those minimums that are set out in that standard, or that zoning district.
Okay. Matt, you had something to add?
Yes, just as it relates to the concurrency and fair share, we found an error in the legal description that's set forth in Exhibit B-1. So if we could just make this approval subject to the revision accepted by the City Attorney's Office, we'll go ahead and we've already made the change. We just need the ability to make that revision.
I'll amend it to include the revision.
Second.
Second, you amended your motion, the second has been amended. Any other questions?
Applicant.
We would like to hear from the applicant, counsel. He's here?
Sure.
You get to earn a paycheck tonight after all.
That's right.
Yes, sir. For the record, Michael Woods, law firm Cobb Cole, 351 East New York Avenue, Suite 200, Deland. And really just here to answer any questions you may have. With me today is a representative from the engineering firm. Can confirm about the depth of the depth and width of the driveway as requested to accommodate what Tim was talking about. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, this item and the next one, this is wrapping up this development for this developer, and they've really enjoyed working with the city and the product they provided here. And happy to be here tonight.
Any questions? Anybody else like to speak to this? We have a motion and a second. We call the amendment first. Robin, call the amendment first or do it all together?
The amendment first.
Amendment first, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. On the main motion, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. Thanks for keeping me straight, Robin.
You're welcome.
That gets us to 26, final plat and plans for Westport Reserve subdivision. May I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I was wondering there for a second. We have a motion, we have a second for approval.
Tim Berman, Community Development. This is basically another subdivision in that area. Basically, this is on the north side of Town West Boulevard, or between the existing Coquina Cove subdivision and Tomoka Farms Road. It is for 78 single-family homes. It's been designed according to the development requirements in the Land Development Code for this particular zoning district. Similar to the Phase 3, they are going to be required to enter into the fair share agreement to pay toward Yorktown Boulevard extension and the Summer Trees Road extension to mitigate some of the transportation issues that were discovered when we reviewed the TIA for this project. Staff is recommending approval of both the subdivision plat and plans for Phase 4 along with the fair share agreement for Phase 4.
Council, questions? This one sits opposite, same depth and width driveway and garages?
Correct. Same concept as Phase 3 then.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, you don't really get much of a grilling. Wayne Clark would get up here when we had this job and we could grill him all day.
He's actually watching and cussing us.
Anybody else like to speak to this? If not, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont?
Yes.
Councilman Bastian?
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford?
Yes.
Mayor Burnett?
Yes, 5-0. That gets us to 27.
Mayor, quick point of order. I don't believe, and I can't unrecord it, but I don't believe we gave the applicant on Gateway an opportunity to speak. Are you interested?
I did give him an opportunity to
Got
speak.
it. Thank you.
I asked if anybody else wanted to speak to it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Unless somebody, council, would you like to reconsider? Unless somebody in the prevailing party wants to pre-consider.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
No, that's okay. I did ask. You can check the tape.
No, I believe you.
Okay. I was kind of surprised, but thank you. No, that's important. And that takes us to...
You asked the applicant to speak.
I asked if anybody else would like to speak to it.
Can I approach?
No? You'd be out of order. We can have a conversation later. And I'm on item 27, right, Robin?
Yes.
Yep, 27.
Thank you. Item 27 is the final plat and plans for Westport Reserve Subdivision Phase 4 and concurrency and fair share agreement. May I have a motion for approval?
We're on...
I'm sorry.
We're on 27.
Final plat and plans for Journey's End, South
Journey's End.
Subdivision.
I'm like, we just did that one, yeah.
Journey's End. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? So we can talk about Journey's End. And Chase and Scotty, you guys in the stare down?
We have to talk about it.
I'll give a second to talk about.
We have a motion and a second. It's on the floor.
Tim Berman, Community Development. The following is a proposal basically to subdivide an existing piece of property. The property was initially approved as part of a MDA amendment to the Journey's End PCD back in 2008, which basically foreshadowed this lot configuration. Basically, what's before us is a subdivision plot and plans to essentially just draw the line in the sand here to create Lot 1 and Lot 2, along with a extension of Journey's End Drive as a public road into the Lot 2 property, and the extension of the stormwater pond to serve whatever development occurs on either Lot 1 or 2. The subdivision plat has been designed according to the lot dimensional requirements and layout depicted on that concept plan. And the subdivision plans have also been designed to include those subdivision improvements necessary for development of Lot 1 or 2. Staff is recommending approval of the subdivision plat and plans based on the Land Development Code and the Journey's End Master Development Agreement.
Questions, council?
For me, this, same concerns, we go back to we spoke to a few minutes ago. It's in this, it leads into this corridor where we've got such a issue ongoing now. It's just not a good timing for that area at all. Creating more of a complex issue, of attracting more stuff into that area. I don't know that I truly grasp how this will do that, as well as the magnitude of what happens to the residential homes that are bordering these properties as well. There's some concern there for me too.
Drew?
One of the lots is the storage facility, correct?
Right. One of the permitted uses is basically Lot 2 is a storage facility, which was generally depicted on the concept plan.
Yeah.
And which is currently, we have a site plan under review for that one.
Yeah. And those, that typically doesn't generate the trips.
That typically is. And then also too, one aspect to that, when this MDA went through, it did get a trip cap limit placed on it, which is around, I think, a little over 300 trips per day that could be associated with this project for both lots then. And the general self-storage that's proposed there would run about somewhere between 175 to 200 daily trips into that facility then.
And that's really, these are the last, looking at the overhead, that's about the last pieces that really are available down that way.
So there is a restriction based on trips on these properties?
Correct.
Okay. 200 approximately are taken up by the one lot, so that allows 100 for the other lot? No.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And that's back and forth is 2, right? Yeah.
Typically, for the for like a high-end restaurant, fast food restaurant, you're dealing, thousands of daily trips here. If the self-storage is around, 200, and that's of course over a 24-hour period too. On there, and then like I said, this area has that trip cap. It's part of when the future land use amendment went through to kind of restrict those to low-intensity uses down at that corner there for that specific reason due to its location in that corridor area.
That's what's definitely going in there is a storage facility.
That's one of the 4 permitted uses in there on that lot then, and that's what we've currently got the site plan under review for, of course, pending.
What are the other permitted uses?
An ALF, business services,
restaurant, right?
What's that?
A restaurant also, right?
Not on.
Oh, that's right, because we have the out.
This one, but basically, I believe it's a. On lot 2 is a self-storage facility, business and financial services, a bank, or the adult daycare facility, a nursing home would be the uses that could theoretically go on lot 2.
Wow.
But again, that's basically the size of those is dependent on the trips that they would generate then.
I really don't have a problem with it if there's a trip limitation. That basically gets around my concern.
Chase, anything else? I know we have some individuals that are here to speak to it as well.
I'll listen to them first.
And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, you said the trip count is over 24 hours. So if they adjust their hours and they're not available 24 hours, does that they'd still be permitted the same amount of trips if they're open 10 hours or 24 or
So
whatever?
what we look at basically is we'll take the ITE transportation manual. It's kind of
Okay.
almost the transportation Bible that's used across the country there in terms of the
Okay,
trip
so there's a
generation.
formula
And
that-
we use that generation rate divided by the square footage, and that gives us the trip generation for this particular
Perfect.
use. And so it's based off
Okay.
of the square footage that's being proposed then.
All right,
And that's what we use to be, consistent across the board then.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, admit I have mixed emotions about it myself because a storage facility is one of the lower intensity uses you can have for this property. And it's going to get developed and something's going to go there.
Yep.
But at the same time, even the best, brightest, most beautiful, whatever it is that we put there, it still has an impact on the neighborhood. And we've got to be cognizant of that as well. Who else would like to speak to this?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Mark Doust, and we're the project engineers for the project. We were also involved in the original subdivision years ago. This was pretty straightforward as far as the plat goes. There was a master development plan that we followed and didn't really give very much latitude on what we could do with the plat. So what you have before you is the plat that follows the master development agreement. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay ready. Dex, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll come up for a minute.
I had a feeling.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dexter Kopp. I'm actually one of the homeowners that actually backs up to this property that is being discussed actually for the division. I do actually have a few things just want to kind of pass out real quick just so you guys can kind of take a look and see what actually is going to be going on here. One of my concerns being that
Thank you,
it does
Dexter.
back up to my property, of course, is a 3-story building. Another is the fact that there should be a security fence in between the building and the surrounding properties and behind our houses. So basically, with what's being said, I mean, I did hold a neighborhood meeting at my office just so that way there we can kind of get some input. You know, we did have a meeting with Mark and Philip, and basically there were some things that were discussed, and of course we would like to see these changes being made. That was one of my understandings, was actually this was going to be to approve the plan, so I kind of had a misconstrued on that. But so anyway, I just wanted to come in here and kind of give my concerns as far as for having whatever is going to be developed there be developed that's going to be beautifying the city of Port Orange, rather than, I mean, it's my understanding that there's 4 different storage facilities that are on the books for Port Orange right now as well. And when somebody pulls into Port Orange, are they going to say, oh, what a beautiful city Port Orange is, or are they going to see this 3-story building that says, welcome to Port Storage? I mean, you know, it's just, I can appreciate that, you know, we are a growing city, and I just want to make sure that, you know, what's actually going to be put in there is going to be advantageous for our city. Not only that, I want to see whatever's going to be in back of my house. If it's going to be right there, I want to have security, and I also want to have something that's going to look nice in behind my house. You know, I don't want to have something that's going to be detracting from my property value. I just bought this property there probably about 1.5 years ago, and I've been rehabbing the house. So I knew that there was this large tract of land behind me, and I also knew that it sold for like 1.7 million or whatever it was back in 05 or 06. I didn't figure that it was going to be developed anytime soon by any means, but so this was kind of a rude awakening for me. But so anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say, and you know, counting on you guys to do the right thing for our city.
Hold that tie up there for just a second. If you're going to come speak. Come, have a little spirit.
Yeah,
right?
have a Christmas spirit. Yeah.
There you go.
Merry Christmas.
I guess the question I have, is it zoned for 3 stories, or is that going to be a separate decision made later?
It's a good question.
The maximum height that within the MDA for that lot is actually 45 feet maximum height then. So the building will need to comply with the height requirements in the MDA and be under the 45 feet height that was established in 08.
Tonight, we're not discussing the building itself. We're not discussing anything that goes in. The vote is simply to split a lot in two, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Matt,
Basically
that's
draw
correct, right?
draw a line down the sand, basically lot 1, lot 2, and then establish a small piece of right-of-way then.
Right.
So what happens if we don't
we're not
split the
approving
lot?
any
We have
business.
one lot, and that means only one. You know, what happens from there?
If someone could propose, a site, development proposal on that 1 6.5 acre lot then, and would have to follow the requirements in the land development code and the master development agreement.
Yeah, just to be clear, there is no modification to the MDA that's in place. So this is the established zoning for this property. They've come in and met the master development agreement and also our subdivision code. So they've met the requirements that are spelled out for them to develop this property. So there's not a whole lot of latitude that council has at this point.
Okay.
But tonight's vote, again, to clarify, is
But the
just to
question
split
is,
them.
Yeah, we're splitting them, but once we split them, then the zoning's already, the
It's
codes
an
are already
approved-
established.
Yeah, they're not asking to change the
There
zoning.
is no change to the master development agreement, which is the zoning for this
So
project.
we get a
PC
45-foot building whether we like it or not.
That's
Or
what
less.
former council in 2008, well, 2000 and then amended in 2008, approved for this property.
Possibly. Come on up.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Philip Hollis, and I'm a principal with the Flagship Companies Group, and we are the developers for this project. And we did meet with Dexter and the neighbors and had a very good meeting, and the mayor was also there. Thank you so much for coming. If I could digress first, I just want you to know that y'all are blessed to have a staff that is as professional as your staff. And since I was city engineer for Altamont Springs in 1976, and I've been at this 40 years, and we do business in a lot of different communities, and you have a very, very professional staff, and I just want you to know that. Thank you for allowing me to digress.
Absolutely.
My wife and I live in New Smyrna Beach. My partner Ted and his wife live in New Smyrna Beach. We get on 95 and come to town. Restaurants, movies, shopping. Port Orange is our town. We saw this site. We've been watching it for a decade since it was approved, and we thought it was an excellent location, but we're in the self-storage business, so we did a detailed analysis of self-storage within the market area, and we determined that the reason that you're hearing about self-storage is that there is a need for self-storage. A decade ago, when the City Commission, planning staff, and planning board put self-storage on the plan, they put a proportionate amount of self-storage to the rooftops for homes and corresponding commercial that you all were planning within the city. Over that decade, a lot of homes have been built and a lot of commercial establishments that correspond to that housing have been built, but very little self-storage has been built, and there's this very high demand for self-storage, but not just for self-storage, but for quality, air-conditioned, and climate-controlled, automated 24/7 security, quality self-storage facility. The type of self-storage facility that a wife and mother would make the decision that they feel safe in going there, and that's the type of facility that we are building. In that decade, people have moved in and things have happened, but the property has a land use that was approved back then, and has a zoning that was approved back then, and it has a PCD development agreement and master plan that was approved. And we looked at all of these other storage sites all over Port Orange in the market area. Why did we pick this site? We picked this site because this site was already approved. We made reliance upon those approvals, but it's more than that. It's that this site is the site that is already approved and has the least amount of time and effort in order to bring self-storage to the marketplace to meet the demand of your citizens who need this self-storage. So there is a lot of talk about self-storage. I've been watching the press. We're not here to talk, we're here to build. I'll be very brief. Self-storage is the lowest generator that exists, period. You can't pick a use that generates less trips, and it's got a cap. Could I reserve time for rebuttal?
If council has no objections.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, yeah, and I think when we're discussing the certain item,
we have questions that we want answered, we'll bring you back.
Yeah, for sure.
Council? Anybody else like to speak to this? Did we get everybody on this?
Anybody?
Back to us. Like I said, I have my concerns about it, and always you got to consider, if you say no to this, what do you end up with?
Yeah,
that's
well, you can end up with a bigger something encompassing one lot, because the lot would be bigger.
Mm-hmm. And I'm absolutely stunned at the demand for self-storage.
It is
people.
considerable.
People's garages are too small. They can't fit their cars in. They store all their stuff in it.
That's right.
And they need storage.
Cars are in the streets.
Don't even look in my garage. It's been quite a few years.
Oh, you don't have any cars in your garage?
It's been quite a few years. That's what happens when you have boys, right?
Yep.
Scott, final thoughts, questions?
No, I totally get the self-storage need, and what the gentleman just spoke of. That's reality. You ride, and it's not just Port Orange. It's
everywhere.
All over Central Florida. You ride around Central Florida, everybody's looking for a place to
stunning.
put more stuff, more toys, thin out what's at the house and keep it at an off-site location, because that fits what they're looking for. I get it. Folks living in apartments and small townhomes and smaller homes and subdivisions and stuff like that. That's what these facilities do really well on, and he's right. There's a demand for that, but there's an impact with it as well. So that's all.
Drew, final thoughts, questions?
No, I'd kind of concur. Scott's right. It's happening everywhere. I spent a week up in the mountains of North Georgia, riding around all over North Georgia and North Carolina. And even though it's less dense, like residential-wise, because you're up there, there's storage facilities all over the mountains as well. So people are just holding on to too much stuff, and they need a place to put it.
I still say I have concerns about how it impacts the neighborhood, but I get it. It's stunning to me. Bob?
Yeah, I have no problem with self-storage. My only problem, and the fact that this is the lowest possible use for for numbers. My concern is, the neighbors deserve, and unhappily, in our earlier work back in 2008, I don't think we were as cognizant, previous councils were not as cognizant, that they have to take care of the people that are there in terms of what's coming. And, I just hope we could work out something with Dexter and his neighbors that makes sense. So that's my concern.
Look at this, that's massive, that's big.
It is big.
It's a lot of storage. Chase?
Yeah, no, this, I'm taken back right now to the storage on Williamson, where, I didn't want to put it there, but the fewest traffic count, the better. My question here is, if our vote tonight is to split the two lots, if we don't split the two lots, does that mean the storage facility is not going to go there?
Doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
That would be my concern, is what would go in the second lot. I think that's my biggest concern right now. I don't have an issue with this per se, considering it is the fewest traffic count. Something's going to go there.
Yep.
I don't want to put us in a situation later on where say, oh man, I wish I had something with fewer traffic count. Well, you did a couple months ago. So I guess my concern right now would be what goes in the second lot.
Just to be sure that the traffic count is capped regardless of whether you split to two and they share the traffic count, or it stays one and they share the traffic count. It's already zoned for whatever's going to be there, and there's already a cap, as Vice Mayor Ford said. So whatever's in lot 2 can't exceed that cap.
Okay.
Or if it's split in two, then they have to share that cap, but the cap isn't going to change based on how many lots are out there. So either way, you can have 2 of something that'll be 300 per day, whatever it was, or 1 of something that could be 300 per day. So Yeah.
And the bottom line, Chase, if they don't comply, if they can't comply, then they're not going to be permitted to build there.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line.
I don't know. Well, call the roll.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we will continue to work with the neighbors on this.
Come on up here.
Come up.
I'm sorry I ran out. I'm sorry I ran out of time. We did meet with the neighbors, and we did agree on a very large number of things. And Dexter, the fence, we agreed on a cutoff fence on both ends to secure the area behind it.
You got to address the podium.
But, and then if you put a fence against a fence, there's a problem with maintaining the area between the fence. And are the neighbors going to tear down their fence if they want us to put up a new fence? That, and we're okay with that, but we did not get a consensus of the neighbors. The mayor, you were at the meeting. We just simply did not get a consensus on things. We moved the dumpster because we thought the majority of the neighbors wanted the dumpster moved to the other side, but then we had people on the east and to the north that said no, they didn't want the dumpster there. So we're trying to please the majority of the neighbors and do something that really works. The building is pushed forward to buffer. We do an acoustical analysis on noise from the interstate on the project, and an internal analysis we always do that's acoustical. And if you push it forward and it's taller, it reflects over 50% of it. We're down to the building materials we use being a split face block that has got conical projections that's like a stealth thing, to structural insulated panels that are foam, that the texture on the exterior, it actually absorbs the sound on the building itself. There was a mistake in the original site plan because it put a one-story next to the residential with doors open on both sides, and then a three-story to do nothing but reflect that sound onto them. Whereas our building screens that, but also remember we have a 20-foot tree preservation area and natural landscape buffer inside of that the sound's got to get through that to get to the building, and then it's got to reflect back through it to get back to the neighborhood. I mean, we've done everything. We're trying to please everybody, and we can't please everybody. But if y'all want to, if you can get all the neighbors to, tear their fence down, or if we can help me to work it out. Y'all understand where we're coming from?
Yes, sir. Completely.
What I'm hearing is that you're more than willing to continue to try to work with the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll do whatever we can do to make it work.
Well, you're going to be their neighbor as much as they're going to be yours.
Yeah, see, this is a facility. I mean, we're making a major economic investment in this community because we're not just going to build it and sell it. We're going to build it, own it, operate it. I mean, it's my retirement. Y'all understand where I'm coming from? Okay, we're going to own it. It's going to be ours. We're going to be
Port Orange is a great place to retire, and
we're going to be corporate residents of this community.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Matt, you had something to add?
Yeah, Mayor, just wanted to, again, reframe the question that's in front of you, which is, does this comply with the zoning that's in place and with your codes for the subdivision? Staff has reviewed it for consistency with the established zoning to be consistent with your subdivision, and staff's review is that it is consistent with what we've already put in place there. So, unless there's some other legal justification that we, that I can hear, then I think we have to follow through on that staff recommendation.
That being said,
basically what you're saying is it was decided in 2008, and whether we like it or not, we'll be in different.
We've been through a few of these.
I've been through several. Anyway,
call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Reluctantly, yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Ford.
legally, yes.
Mayor Burnett.
No. 3-2. And I would ask absolutely because our staff is very cognizant of taking care of our neighbors, and we want you to be a good neighbor to them. Very good. Thank you. Item 28, Resolution 17-68.
Move to approve resolution number 1768.
I'll read it, and then you can.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
A resolution in
Why
the
don't you
City
read
of Port
it?
Orange, Volusia County, Florida, appropriating operating and capital funds, providing for adjustments to the general fund budget consistent with approved millage, setting forth revenues and expenditures, and providing an effective date. Drew, I entertain your motion now.
Motion to approve resolution 17-68.
Second.
I have a motion, we have a second. Who's speaking to this?
Tracy Green, sorry, sir.
And this is just making the adjustment to the general fund budget?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tracy Ream, Finance Director. This resolution has been approved to implement the guidance that was received from Council on the 19th of September. It's detailed out there. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Council, any questions? You have a Tracy Ream special appearance?
I don't have any questions for him.
No questions? Would anybody else like to speak to this? Being none, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to item 29. As I advance my screen and I see a big circle. Oh boy. Should have brought an extra bottle of water. Resolution 17-69 is a resolution of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, appropriating operating and capital funds to budget for council priorities for Port Orange Family Days Community Trust donation for Port Orange 150th celebration for State DOT Grant M5HVE-18-06-07 to provide funding to purchase property within the Riverwalk District, appropriate funds for the Cypress Head Golf Course Clubhouse building repairs, for additional cost of construction, engineering, and inspection for Dunlawton Street Light Improvement Project, for completion of the Causeway Dock projects, to budget for the interlocal agreement with the City of New Smyrna Beach, to budget for change in stormwater fees, and to provide additional funding for the City Hall Annex project, setting forth revenues and expenditures, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve resolution number 17-69.
Second.
Need a second to catch my breath after that one. You're up.
Mayor and Council, I apologize for the very long title. It's a more detailed movement of some funds in order to fund the council priorities that have been approved or moved on in recent times. The largest of which, of course, is the land purchase, the docks, and the City Hall Annex. There's exhibits in here to show there's the movement of funds, unfunding of certain projects and such, in an effort to be clear. Again, I'll answer whatever questions you may have.
There was definitely some of this on.
Yes, sir.
Questions from Ms. Ream? Guys are easy. No heat for her, no heat for you. I guess not.
I see the projects we're doing with it. I'm like,
And,
yeah, that's all, everything we talked about. and
Absolutely.
Wanted to get going, so let's get going.
Anybody else like to speak to this? If not, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
5-0, yes. And she's gone, just like that. That brings us to item 30, acquisition of Riverwalk properties, 108 Herbert Street, 3900 Halifax Drive, 3969 Ridgewood Avenue, 3979 Ridgewood Avenue, parcel number 6303-11-02-0012 on Dunlawton Avenue. May I have a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and it came from this side of the room this time. Jake, would you like to speak to this?
Absolutely, Mayor. Mayor and Council, as I had indicated to you earlier, the opportunity arose to buy these 5 properties from Port Orange Riverwalk LLC and Port Orange Riverwalk LLP. Matt and Shannon from the City Attorney's Office under Margaret's direction, and our staff has worked diligently to try to buy these properties to make most of that corner that Vice Mayor Ford and I have been chomping at the bit to make whole. It'll make it whole for the most part, with the exception of the business owners that currently conduct business on Ridgewood. I've listed them there, but basically Dunkin' Donuts, Bob's, the Mower Center, and the private residence behind the Mower Center. The appraised value is $985,000. The purchase price is $1,805,552 plus closing costs. This will put the city in a position to start talking to developers to develop that corner. I know back long before I got here there was a vision to make a little seaport village in that area. I don't know if we have enough land to make a seaport village, but most of the developer conversations I've been having have talked about mixed use with business below, either low-rise condo or boutique hotel above kind of items, not of the 13-story nature, but pretty small. And I believe some developers are even contacting other business or landowners in that area to see if they can combine their efforts and make something big just south of the park.
And I think that's what we want to see. We want to see the private sector get their creative juices going.
And I believe that's starting to happen every day. We get another person knocking on the door asking what's happening with that property. So we believe that the news is out that the city's moving forward down there, and that helps. The Chamber's helped out a lot. Vice Mayor Ford's constituents and people down there helped out a lot. The park has started that exactly what we hoped it would. So I believe this is in the best interest of the city to purchase this price. Of note, it is above 15% above appraised value by about 7%, and it will demand a supermajority or a 4/5 vote for tonight.
Let me just speak to the appraisal process as part of that, just because that's my bailiwick on with my day job.
Sure.
Currently, we're seeing market growth in a year's time that parallels paying slightly over the appraised price, the way the market is, and accelerating. It's a very short period of recovery time. But even more important than that, the appraisals are done kind of in a bottle in and of itself. Each property is evaluated on its own, and each parcel is evaluated based on what you cannot do with one individual parcel. So legally, an appraiser cannot give consideration to the overall value of putting those parcels together as the whole. So normally I'd have a little bit of heartburn paying over appraised value for anything of any significance, but when you consider that, and I think we should, but I just want to throw that out there. Bob, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. I didn't have heartburn because I was here when the properties were purchased. Okay. And I want to tell you, I wouldn't even hazard how much money was lost between what was paid for these properties and what the city has just purchased them for. So, you know, a sad era is ending. I feel ill at ease doing this, but it needs to be done because Riverwalk was done in such a way that was originally impossible. We had all these little blocking lots. So as a result, nothing could be developed. And we have now waited, how many years? 17, 18, 19 years we've been sitting on this land, our land, which is the majority, with all these little blocking lots, and we can't move forward. So now this gives us the first opportunity to have a single piece of land, say to a developer, come in, buy it from us, and develop it. And I'm hoping that will occur shortly. There seems to be a lot of interest. Are we going to change the names on the sign on the corner there? the addresses and telephone numbers on the sign. I think as soon as we get through all this, we probably should work on that sign a little.
The sign indicates the
Advertise the property based in the middle area. Of the side of the.
We'll get back to you with that, Mayor.
Yeah, take
We'll
a look
at
at
the-
it.
We'll look at the.
Okay.
the legal,
So,
'cause that's
I don't
our
have
property.
sticker shock, because one of the pieces of property there itself sold for 1.1 million. One of the 5, so it was quite a thing.
Getting a little bit of a deal when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Chase?
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with this. I think the smart thing to do is capitalize on the momentum we have right now. The longer you wait for the perfect scenario, that's just never going to happen. I think we got to capitalize with the momentum we have.
Drew?
Just for clarity, on the map that's colored that breaks it down who the owners are, we'd be purchasing the 4 green properties and the 1 purple?
That's correct.
Okay, 36, 37, 39, 41, and partial 28.
I don't know about partial 28.
28 is I think 108 Herbert.
That's right, Jake.
Yeah.
It's the numbers that you've assigned on that map.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, I just want to be clear. Yeah, when it's, knowing what Bob just told us with one of the parcels initially sold for 1.1, and we're getting all 5 for a little over 1.2. It is a little above the appraised value, but I think coming back to us and giving us the flexibility, it's going to be well worth the little bit of additional funding to acquire them.
You can't look back, you gotta look where we're going.
Yep.
Scott?
Well, I think from a strategy perspective, you look at that area from Herbert Street south to Dunlawton, there's a total of 25 parcels. This puts 21 of the 25 under one umbrella, and I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for us. Certainly from a strategy perspective, I can't see, well, we know, we've seen what has happened up to now. There's too many people involved there, including the city, and it's almost like a blocking thing, and it just really has made that a stagnant issue. I think this is going to be a really good opportunity. It's basically an opportunity for us to acquire something, get this particular section of the River District in our hands and then out of our hands, and get a quality project in there that I think will be beneficial. So I just think it's important for the public to understand that this is about acquisition to get rid of it, not to just keep it and sit on it and let it be a,
we've done that long
green
enough.
space or whatever. That's not what we want to do.
We'll get our money back, I'm sure.
Yep. That's what the plan is.
Spades. Would anybody here like to speak to this? Come on, Mark.
Hey, Mark Dickinson on Herbert Street 667. Thanks for listening. It's a funny story. My grandparents were going to buy the Porthole property that goes all the way to Canal View, $11,500 back in 50s. They decided for $16,000 for a house in Port Orange. But long story short, I think as you were mentioned there, property values generally always climb up. I see our stocks with a property company, they are consistently going up in price. It's great. It's awesome. I hope that you can approve it. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I drive to Gemini Springs consistently to do photography over there. And I've just started getting traction at the new Riverwalk Park, so it's really awesome. So it's good. People are liking the location. Good. Just hopefully if we can keep some consideration down on Herbert Street, because that's Dunlawton 2, we call it. It's just cars left and right. So when we add this, the extra properties and start developing, just please keep us in mind. The whole neighborhood they're there, because it's Chief put a radar sign down there, but they were doing the power line, so it really wasn't effective. But cars fly through there pretty good. So just keep us in mind down there, all the neighbors in the city there with regards to that area, either sidewalk or just maintaining the bike path and so on and so forth. But hopefully we can get it passed and see some awesome stuff there. And hopefully, Port Orange Eye, isn't that what they do, the little Ferris wheel? Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Let's not get crazy, Mark.
Yeah, not a bad vision either.
Yeah, a little lowercase I.
Somebody writes the right check. Council, anything else?
Nope.
Not, call the roll.
Councilman Tremont.
Yes.
Councilman Bastian.
Yes.
Councilman Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ford.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Go get them, Jake.
I got them.
City Attorney comments. Mr. Jones.
I'm going to defer to Mark.
You can defer to the boss?
Yes.
You held that seat long enough?
Council members, on the applicant for the Gateway Center, I want to encourage you to allow that applicant to have an opportunity to talk with you. It'd probably be best tonight, but certainly you could consider that at your next meeting as well. I do that not because I think it will cause any restriction on your vote, but it will give that applicant his day and opportunity before you. So I think that's an important opportunity. At this point, I'm not sure it's a legal right, because I think the opportunity passed the applicant by, but I think it passed him by quickly, and to avoid any concern that he didn't have perhaps a full opportunity, hearing him out would avoid that type of discord.
Is he still
So
here?
just to encourage your reconsideration of that item to allow that opportunity to present.
I don't mind the
3 no's would have to.
yeah, well, and I can't make a motion, so it'd have to come from one of you guys, but I really don't
I
want to do it
wasn't a no.
tonight.
Not tonight, but
I-
how about a future meeting?
All right, I am going to suggest that the applicant make that request to you then.
Well, if we can do that right now, if somebody wants to make a motion to reconsider at the next meeting,
January 4th.
which would be January 4th.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
It has to be a motion and a second from you two. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
We'll make sure that gets on the agenda for January 4th then.
Okay.
Very good. City manager comments.
Mayor, Council, one quick comment. Mr. Berman and Chief Grimaldi have approached the city manager with a plan to move code enforcement from community development to the police department. Based on previous discussions we all had earlier in 17, I think it might have been at a workshop where it was mentioned. The city staff has looked into all the options, and including fire. Maybe not all options. We didn't look at putting in the city managers, but the places where
Parks and Rec didn't want it?
Yeah, no, Parks and Rec didn't want it unless they could mow. Tim and Chief have decided with my concurrence that the police department's the best way to gain kind of a little bit of collaborative effort, and uniform ordinance, code enforcement, police enforcement kind of fits well. And before we go forth and do some detailed planning and come up with an organizational change for you all to approve, I'd like concurrence from council that that's the direction you want us to go. It's going to take some manpower, some man hours rather, and some planning. And I just didn't want to go out that road only to get a 2-3 or a 0-5 vote that it wasn't a good idea. Now, realizing that you all had mentioned it earlier, so I know you were supportive earlier.
Are we talking old police department or current?
What we are talking people
taking code
not
enforcement,
working for Mr. Berman anymore and working for Chief
that,
Grimaldi.
yeah.
code enforcement,
Okay,
not a
under the police umbrella
locational
instead of
change. I wouldn't
community
have.
development.
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
have
got
told
you.
doing
I
it.
remember, okay.
But this is an organizational change.
Any questions for Jake on this?
I think it should have. This is something
Good
that
idea.
is long overdue.
We've
And
talked about this.
having seen how the city can address areas of the city that at times need our attention, it seems like law enforcement and code enforcement is always part of that, and if they can work more cohesively and share some of that, strategy and information, I think it'll be a much more effective process. So I applaud it. I say move forward as quickly as possible and get it done.
Okay.
Amen.
Roger that.
We're looking at bringing it to you in January, February for approval, execution in March-ish.
There you
No
go.
objections? Then we
None.
have consensus.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
That's all you have?
Yeah.
All right. Committee reports? There are no committee reports?
I didn't know who was meeting, so.
Does anybody have anything to add on committee?
I had River to Sea TPO, and they reiterated that there was talk of changing the local match, possibly as high as 25%, and we tabled it indefinitely, so nothing changes for now. The local match will be 10%, with the option to get a higher placement. If you volunteer more, you can put as much as your own in as you want, and that would get you a higher ranking priority. But the local match, they figured it would hurt the smaller cities and their ability to fund projects, so we left it alone. And the other thing that came out of that was the adaptive traffic signal. I mean, you already knew that is approved and was moved into the 1920 year. So it's approved and funded, and it will be coming. It's just going to be a little bit of a wait yet.
Okay. Anything else? Mayor's Roundtable did not meet this month either. For next meeting will be in January.
Yep.
If nothing else comes before us this evening, this is our last meeting of the year 2017.
Merry Christmas, all.
8:15.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry
Hanukkah.
Christmas.
Good
Happy
stuff.
Hanukkah.
And
Happy
all
New
the
Year.
good stuff.
And we'll see you in 2018. Good night.